Welcome to the Wedco Podcast, your ultimate guide to the wedding world. Whether you're a bride, groom, or wedding vendor, this is the place to be. Join us as we dive into real stories, expert advice, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you plan the perfect day. So grab a seat and let's celebrate love, connection, and creativity together. Before we get into this episode, I'd love to ask you a super quick and easy favor. If you're enjoying the Wedco Podcast, please hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It might seem small, but it makes a huge difference in helping the podcast grow and means I can keep bringing on amazing vendors to share their insights with you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world. Hello and welcome to the Wedco Podcast. I'm Toga, and today we've got Teddy on the podcast with me. So Married by Teddy. Thank you so much for coming on, mate.
Pleasure to be here. Wonderful.
When did we met? Last year, was it mid last year up at Widmere Estate?
Yeah, exactly. That was the one about just over 12 months ago.
Far out, that's gone quick.
Yeah, certainly. It's a whirlwind, I think, for both of us in the last 12 months. But I think reflecting on that, that's a wonderful thing. I think it's been a big year for a lot of vendors. And I think there's a lot of success that we as an industry have to celebrate at the end of the year. So coming into 2026, I'm feeling the energy that people are refreshed and ready and reset, ready to go into a really boomer 2026.
It feels like that way, doesn't it? It feels 2025, I feel like a lot of people are kind of just like almost spinning their wheels a little bit, just like kind of going through the motions. But then everyone I'm speaking to at the moment, like everyone is feeling like 2026 is feeling good.
Like 2025 was a bit of a reset year. I think we had the post-COVID boom, and then I feel like people have sort of started to tail off that. And 2025 was this sort of year of working out, we're past the boom, and I don't really know what's coming, and all it's different to what I've been doing. And I feel like 2025 was this clean out year of people working out systems and processes and ways of working and ways to connect with each other. And I feel like there's a lot of foundations that have been laid in 2025 ready to catapult into this next year and really adopt technologies, adopt different ways of working. And I feel like 2025 was the year of working a lot of those out, and then people are ready for 2026.
Definitely. Well, I think we should definitely start a little bit about your backstory and your experience in the wedding industry. Like, what blew me away was you came up for the Passion Dash event and like flew yourself up, met some awesome people up there, but just how much you were putting yourself out there to become a part of the wedding community. So yeah, I'd love to kind of just hear, especially for the people kind of just getting started in the industry now, to hear your backstory and kind of where you've already gone in you know, it's not that long that you've been in the wedding industry, but I feel like your growth and everything has been so exponential already in that time.
Yeah, indeed. So I've been a celebrant for coming up to 12 months now. I was appointed in February last year. I had been thinking about being a celebrant for a number of years. My professional background is corporate sales, corporate marketing for the better part of the last 20 years. And I sort of wanted to pivot out of retail, which is where I was in sales and marketing in retail, into working for myself. And celebrancy for me was the epitome of, or the combination of all of my other life skills, all of my business building, all of my marketing experience, public speaking, working with people. And I think for all the difficult conversations I've had in my professional life, hiring and firing and performance managing and negotiating and these sorts of things, I love that I get to play in a space now where I get to use my public speaking skills to hold space. And that's the language I use for ceremony is I've got half an hour to hold space for you, to create something, to shape something, to help you feel something. And so I see it as the most wonderful opportunity to use an incredible life experience. And, you know, I'm very lucky to have been to 90 plus countries in the world. Like I'm so well experienced and rich with cultural experiences and diversity and just having experienced the world. And I now get to bring some of those lessons into people and get them to help them spark new ideas and to, I guess one of my approaches is to shake tradition up. If you want to, I really reject the idea that we do a traditional wedding because everybody else has done it. Why are we doing that? This is your day. What is the memories that you want to create? I often say to couples, if you want to do tradition, no problem, but why? If you can justify it that I want to wear these shoes because they've been in my family for 6 generations and that's important to me. Okay, great. Let's wear those shoes. But if you're only wearing them because you've seen it on Instagram and that's what you've seen everybody else do as a wedding, okay, let's talk about shoes. What you wear in your normal life. No, I pick shoes as an example. What do you wear in your normal life? Okay, what would make you feel comfortable on the day? And let's find the best pair of those that's gonna make you feel right. So coming into the industry, I've had a wonderful 12 months. I'd like to think that I've tried different things. I've tried different advertising strategies, getting my name out there, branding, talking to people. The Passion Dash event that Amy ran was actually off the back of this podcast. I'd heard Amy's episode and I just reached out to her and I said, hey, really fantastic episode. I love listening to it. I loved what you have to say. Yeah. And then from that, we formed a friendship, which led into an invitation to her event, which is where I met you. And then you and I have stayed in contact and here we are. And I think one of my biggest takeaways in the last 12 months, and this is probably guidance a learning for people who are following in my footsteps, is actually how generous and wonderful this industry is. And I've never experienced the level of connection that people form with each other and the human to human connections. Yeah, I haven't seen it in any other industry I've worked in. And it's so unique and so special. And I think we as vendors have something to treasure. We've been given this legacy. And I think it's up to us to continue to create ways to connect with couples in a really inclusive, passionate way where we really celebrate everybody who's in that space with us. And that's where I come back to the idea of holding space. That is my job as a celebrant, is to hold space to make sure that everybody feels welcome and present and feels like, I guess the way I phrase it is that, you've got wedding guests who you've invited. You want them to have as great a time as what you're having. So What is it that we can do as a vendor to create that space so that everybody there goes away having an exceptional day?
Exactly. And I think we will delve more into the inclusivity, but even touching on what you just said then, when I thought before our previous discussion about inclusivity, I thought it was all around language, but then you broke it down to that's kind of the starting point. And then you talk about, okay, how do we include all that? I guess I'll let you do the speaking on this because you did a very eloquent job compared to what I can. But I just really liked about how inclusivity, when you look out into the social media realm and everything, it's all about how we say things. But it was really cool to see how you break it down, that's just kind of the starting point. But also how easy it is as well, So
I think I think changing language is not about erasing tradition. I think it's about expanding it so that it's about expanding the situation for who gets seen and gets to be their true and authentic self. I think the term woke comes up a lot in our current society, and this is not about being woke. It's about being accurate. Not every wedding has a bride and groom. Not everyone identifies with ladies and gentlemen. And so I think, language, as you say, is a starting point. That's the language that we use in the industry needs to catch up. Too often, I think we hear phrases like, hey guys, would you mind coming over here? And we're actually talking to a broad group of people now, on a stereotypical form, male and female, but actually within that, somebody could be of any sort of identity, right? And so I think it's about swapping out some of the language from, hey guys, or can I get all the women on the dance floor, to how about can I get everybody who wants to have a dance on the dance floor right now? It's so simple, and these things don't cost anything, but what they do is create a safe space where everybody feels welcomed. But to your point, it's not just language, it's being considerate of disability, it's being considerate of pets, it's being considerate of, if we're bringing a pet to a wedding, wonderful, but how about we put advance notice out to everybody else in case people have got a phobia of dogs, in case they have an allergy? No problem, we can accommodate that. If you've got an allergy, why don't we keep you on opposite sides of the room with a seating chart? There is really easy things that don't cost anything, but they do contribute to a space. I think I'll self-disclose and say that about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with autism. Now, this took myself and the psychologist by surprise. It was the most wonderful discovery because it gave me a language for why I do certain things in the world. I'm smart enough to understand it doesn't make me different, but now I know why Teddy ticks in certain ways, and I can be the better version of myself to start to moderate those. But one of them is sensory overload, where there's either a lot of information coming into me, or I'm in a loud, busy, noisy environment. And if I'm not close to an exit, I start to have a panic attack. Okay. So by me knowing that I'm going into a loud, busy environment, I just mentally prepare for that. And I go, Teddy, you've got this for an hour. You're good, mate. You can handle this. And if not, I just say to people, hey, I just need a breather. I'm going to go outside for a couple of minutes. And so if a couple says to me, hey, Teddy, we're going to be in a dark, enclosed space that's going to feel claustrophobic, no problem. I got you. I'm still going to hold space for you. Thanks so much for letting me know. And it was as simple as that conversation. And I've got everything I need now to be present. And I think that's one thing I really want to encourage to listeners today is that it's actually sometimes the most simple things we can do, and they don't necessarily cost anything, but they do create value and they create experience for everybody that's there. And it's not just for our guests, it's for other vendors. We don't know how everyone identifies. I don't know your pronouns unless I've asked them. So I think it's appropriate for us to be using language that is accommodating. Even simple things like the bride side and the groom side. How about everyone choose a seat? For sure. We're bringing two people together in marriage, but we're also combining two families and blending two families. But we still use this language or this idea of the bride side and the groom side. How about we just have seats that everybody's welcome to sit at? It doesn't actually matter who sits where. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that. It's this, coming back to, that, and that's something that I personally wouldn't have thought about until our conversation either. But then as soon as you bring it up, it's so easy to be like, okay, we're going to put things into place so that person doesn't have to worry about that. And it's just a bit of, you plan everything else for your wedding day, but then for a lot of weddings, inclusivity wouldn't even come into the thought of it. Do you find you have to educate? Okay, do you have a pretty nuanced client base that comes to you naturally, or do you find that you're doing a lot of education along the way from after they book in your services?
It's definitely an education process, but I'd like to put my own hand up and say it's also an education process for me. As much as I have done a lot of research and a lot of reading to make sure I'm trying to be as inclusive, there are times I also get it wrong, and that's okay. I think it's not about being perfect all of the time. It's about making an attempt and showing people that you're genuinely trying to create space that's important for them. One of the things, I've got an inclusivity guide that I've written. It's a 30-page guide that I send out to my couples. That is available to my guests. So that goes out to them about 3 months after they've booked me for a long lead. And it's just ideas. And I then have a conversation with the couple and say, hey, I want you to read it. What in here do you want some more information on? Or is there anything you want some ideas on? Let's have a conversation around, or do you know who your guests are? Have you thought about asking them any questions? Sometimes it might be a really simple question in an RSVP. What could we do that would make your day exceptional? It's one simple question on an RSVP. It may be something like, Please could I have an accessible toilet? Please could I make sure there's coat hooks on the back of the toilet doors?
Yes.
It could be, could you make sure the menu is in font big enough so I can read it? Sometimes it's the smallest things that, I come back to. It doesn't cost anything. But that one question when you're getting RSVPs, an open text box, what could we do that would make your day exceptional? Create a list of those, and I can guarantee probably about 80 or 90% of them are free. That education process you were talking about has actually come from your guests. That one question, you're getting the education from your guests for what is going to help them. Done. And then from there, you've got the majority of what you need to be able to make an inclusive environment.
And I feel like obviously it's your wedding day, but also it is about everyone you're inviting. You're inviting everyone there for a reason, and how much more special they're going to feel just because you asked that question. I mean, people get they feel so good when they're like, okay, what song would you like to hear on the dance floor? And everyone loves being able to say that. But if you could ask that question and they're like, oh no, this actually really matters to me, and then you put that into place, they're going to feel so much more connected to you, and it's going to make your day so much more special as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, look, inclusion's not about ticking boxes. It's a vibe. To use that phrase. True inclusion feels like an invisible hug. It feels like you belong here. And if everybody feels like they belong, the dance floor is going to feel faster. People are going to have more smiles on their face. They're going to create better photos, better video. It's going to make for better content creation. All of these things that we as vendors are in the industry of creating, your guests are going to do that. If they feel like they belong and they're having a great time, the rest of our job is easy because it's already there. We're just now capturing it. I guess my job as celebrant is a little bit more to create that vibe in the first place.
Yeah.
But for the other vendors, particularly photographers, videographers, etc., it's actually, you're just capturing what's there. So but I think then it's about how do we come together as a vendor team to create those moments, and it's the symbiosis of how we all work together. But I think equally there's a lot of planning that can be done along the way, and it just takes one vendor who isn't respectful of pronouns, who makes a simple comment like pronouns don't matter out loud at a wedding when we've done all this work to create an inclusive space, and suddenly you've got a cohort of people who are having a great time, who are no longer having a great time. And we as vendors have to work so much harder to recreate that vibe.
For sure, definitely. And do you want to talk a little bit about, so how would this process kind of, when you're presenting your ceremonies, obviously you're working with your couples and you want to make it as special to them as possible. How are you kind of feeding this into your ceremonies that you're crafting?
Yeah, I think it starts, so I like to do pre the couple arriving into the space. So as the guests are arriving, there's the traditional vibe setting, create the moment set of pieces. Within that, I like to create a couple of permissions. You have permission to walk around. If you're a fidgeter, why are we saying societally? Because of tradition, you have to sit in your chair. If you're struggling, get up and walk around. You have my unbridled permission. Away you go, toodaloo. Walk around. That's not going to change a ceremony, but if that's going to help you enjoy the space. So I think that's something I do at the beginning. I like to give people an idea of what's coming in the ceremony.
Yes. Yeah, awesome.
So pre the wedding party coming down the aisle. Hey, friends and family, we're going to have a short welcome. The couple's going to arrive. I've got a ceremony. They're going to do vows and rings. We're going to wrap it up. And then we're good to go. Beautiful. And for the people, particularly who are neurodivergent and love structure and want to know what's coming, they've got a broad base of going, right, I know. Okay, after rings, if I'm struggling in this environment, I know I don't have too much longer before this is over. I like to give people a bit of a before I sort of send the wedding party back down the aisle. Hey everyone, bit of housekeeping. After this, very shortly, they're going to kiss. It's going to be exceptional. We're going to capture that on camera and have some big cheers. After they've walked down the aisle, you're all going to follow. You're going to head out there for a drink, a bit of housekeeping and sort of wrap it up. So I think you can incorporate these ways that are very natural in flow. They don't need to be a lot of them, but I think by giving people a structure and letting them know that they've got permission, that this is their space. I always love to say at the start of a ceremony, if you like something that I've said, I want you to holler and yelp and cheer. If they're crying and you like it, holler and yelp and cheer. Like, be present and involved. If you think what I've said is beautifully sentimental and you want to comment, give me your best, that's so sweet sort of moment. I love that audible moment in a ceremony. Again, this idea of tradition that we go, the celebrant's speaking, I can't.
Yes.
Bit of a party, bit of a vibe. Let's bring that in. And it's what happens is it creates connection between the couple and the guests. There is suddenly a connection backwards and forwards. And again, that starts to create energy that feeds into the reception, people enjoying themselves, the content creation team are capturing that. And that's what we're there for. But I think one of the other big pieces, what I do in ceremony, is the importance of language. You will never hear me say ladies and gentlemen on a microphone. Yep. It's friends, family, chosen family, loved ones, beautiful humans. Unless the wedding couple have identified themselves as bride and groom, you won't hear me say bride and groom. It's the couple, it's lovebirds, it's newlyweds, it's the lovers. Like this sort of language that is gender neutral, identity neutral. I'm identifying the two people that we're marrying, but often I use the language of lovebirds. Hi, before the lovebirds come down the aisle, everyone knows who I'm talking about, but I haven't said bride and groom.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like most people wouldn't even realize that that's what you've said, but the people that it really matters to will notice.
Correct. And I think the difference there is I haven't gone around all 120 people there, including the vendors, and asked them how they identify.
Yep.
So as the person on the microphone, it's my obligation, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm using language that automatically includes, not automatically excludes. And it's just small nuances. You talk a lot on this podcast about the use of technology. ChatGPT is out there. Now, I've had a lot of conversations with vendors about this, and it's so controversial with celebrants. I think photographers and videographers are leagues ahead in the use of technology in terms of editing down photos. As you've referenced before, I used to get it to 70 or 80% myself, and now I'm using technology or support to get it to that level, and then you're putting your human time to get it to 110.
Yes.
You mentioned AI to celebrants, and they just about have a conniption that they think it's lazy writing. I probably apply the same approach. I have the ability to use the English language. I write to 90%, then I put it into technology and I say, I want you to go through this and find any gendered language that I've missed.
Yeah, amazing.
And so you can use technology in this way to capture it. Is there anything in here that might be offensive to a diverse audience? Is there anything in here that might be culturally insensitive? You can ask the technology this sort of questions. And even if you then just goes this paragraph and you come back to human writing, technology can really help us in that way, and it can help us find our blind spots. And so I think it's about how do we take the human element, which is what we're doing, trying to include humans in the space. But I think there is also an opportunity here to use technology, particularly for people who may not be as familiar within the inclusivity space, or maybe have a genuine desire to do it but not know where to start.
Yes.
You can use technology just by getting it to read your ceremony script. And I'm talking to other celebrants here. Get it to read your script. It could also be, for other vendors, it could be using technology to assess your questionnaires.
For sure.
The questionarian.
Definitely.
What language in here is gendered? It could be family identity. We often assume a family is male, female, and 2 kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Or it could be, we automatically assume that I've got 2 male identifying parties as part of the wedding, and we're going to assume I've got 2 grooms. Who's to say that one of those doesn't identify as a bride? There is a wonderful nuance and a wonderful spectrum here, and we can use technology to help us find these blind spots that may not be as obvious, and to create spaces that put a smile on people's faces.
For sure, and for no energy output on your own behalf. Well, it's just, I guess, coming back to the celebrant side of things, is most people you talk to are saying you're using, technology to help write and craft what you're saying about the couples. They would just be like, oh, you're just getting that to write it all for you. But I love how you're I'm going to create the story, I'm going to craft this story, and then you're just kind of checking over that with an external party, essentially.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so that's cool. I want to talk about, okay, so registered now for a year as a celebrant. I'd love to talk about how did your perception of coming into weddings, how did that change to what is actually happening with you now? Was that very different to what you expected?
I think there's 2 things here. I think one is what happens in the ceremony space itself, and I think the other part is the business building side. Yep. I think from a ceremony space, for all of my experience public speaking, we speak with natural syntax, pauses and commas and full stops. That's part of our natural rhythm. But when you're a celebrant, what you soon realize is there's this beautiful moment. You're love, 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 horse and marriage and a carriage and all these beautiful words. And people, the wedding couple are watching, you see this language going through their face, and they're processing the beautiful words you're saying, and then they're lost in memories of their engagement or whatever it happens to be. And if you speak too quickly, you've lost them. They literally lose paragraphs. And so what I've learned in ceremonies, you speak and you pause and everything slows right down. And it feels so unnatural to our normal speaking rhythm. But the beauty of the holding space as a celebrant, this is the thing they don't teach you in celebrant school, at least not to this level. And I've done press conferences around the world and held audiences to all sorts of sizes. Then I got into this ceremony space, and it was the most wonderful learning that I had very early in the piece. And the more you slow down, the more you actually get to hold space, and people start to linger on every word you say. And then I think there's just Celebrant 101. Don't stand in the middle. Otherwise, you're in the middle of all of the photos. Every photographer and videographer is smiling and laughing right now because they go, this is the basics. They don't teach you this in celebrant school. You've got to learn it on the job. And so I think I've gone on this wonderful journey, and I say it with a smile. I've gone on this wonderful journey of what to do in the ceremony space that's different to normal public speaking.
Yep.
And then I think on the business building side, part of celebrancy is highly regulated. We do a 12-month course, 13 modules. We have to go through appointment with the Attorney General. We're the only country in the world that has this level of sort of rigor, I guess, around what we do. It's not the sort of 20-minute online course and I'm ordained by the Church of the Apple MacBook on a Sunday, right? Like it's a process, right? And so the course teaches you the celebrant laws, what you do, how you do it, but it also teaches you business 101. Now, the course wonderfully teaches you through a sales plan, a marketing plan, budgets, but it also goes down to things like you should think about having a personalized domain. You should think about having a logo. Meanwhile, I'm sort of metaphorically rolling my eyes. I already had my logo designed in Illustrator in a scalable vector format, right? Color palette, branding, fonts. I already had that designed. So I was able to use my time in my celebrant school while I was writing the marketing plan for the course. I was actually writing my own business marketing plan.
Yep.
And because I come into the industry with sales and marketing, I have the ability to build out my own website. I can write, I can write a profit and loss statement and those sorts of things. And so I am very fortunate that I came into the industry with a very strong business background, and I've just been since applying that into the industry. I think that's probably helped me in a lot of ways, even yours and my relationship that we've had over the last 12 months. It started with a conversation, we've sort of touched base with each other, and then here we are. I think I'm very fortunate in that regard. I think for a lot of new vendors, not just celebrants, don't necessarily have that courage in terms of their business aptitude. And so I was probably 3 steps ahead there. But then I think we're in very changing times. No sooner do you understand the Instagram algorithm and it changes. No, you smile?
Yep.
No sooner do we start to get our head around SEO and then Google changes the playbook there. And so I think, what I had as a business plan 12 months ago, I've just spent the Christmas New Year break reformulating it for what it looks like for 2026.
Yes.
I've in my opening sort of remarks, I talked about 2025 was a reset year. For me, it was a trial and error year. Yep. And I've sort of now seen the different things that have worked. I've asked a lot of celebrants what they do to get their business out there. Are you advertising on Meta? Are you on Google? A lot of them say, I play in the free of charge Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And they do nothing else and are booked out with 100 bookings a year. I haven't gotten a single lead from any of those Facebook groups, and I've been playing and commenting and posting and educating and everything else. And so it's been a year for me of working out what hasn't worked. And for me, it's expos. It's the human to human contact. I think for celebrants, you're wanting to meet us as a person. Definitely. And see our vibe. And so for me, expos is working really well. But equally, they come at high cost. But I've spoken to a lot of celebrants who said I've tried them and they don't work. And I think that's probably been my learnings in the last 12 months of what hasn't worked. But I think also the learning of having the courage to put myself out there and try different things along the way and talk to different vendors and ask questions. And vendors in this industry, as much as we are all competing against each other, there is genuine desire to help. And if that vendor won't help you, I can guarantee the next one will. And I think that's probably my advice to people entering the industry is have that courage to go out there and talk to people, go to networking events, message people on social media, ask them for a coffee. If it costs you $12 for 2 coffees and that's your investment to get an hour out of somebody, and you start a vendor relationship where you might end up doing business together, that's a really wonderful investment. Find a way that you can give back to that person. I've had a relationship recently. I met somebody at an expo, a vendor, and we just had a sort of brainstorming coffee. Now, where we've landed is I'm helping them with some business pieces that they want that's not their strong point, and they're about to go and help me produce something that they do.
Beautiful.
And there's a wonderfully beneficial relationship, and it's now leading into lead generation for each other. It's leading into referrals and recommendations. And that started with an initial contact at an expo, at a very regional expo. We're doing that same expo this year, and we've already messaged the event organizer and said, hey, can we go next to each other? Because we are so vibing. We're going to create something really exceptional. And that started with a hi and a hello. And I think that's a wonderful learning I've had in the last 12 months is having the courage to put yourself out there and to ask questions, because people will share, and it might not work for you and it's working for them. But that's the wonderful part of it, is there's enough space for all of us.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like everyone is, like you've said, everyone wants everyone to succeed. It almost seems like it is all the vendors, not Versa world, but like everyone just like, this is working, you got to do this. And then like same thing as like you said, that may not work for you, but then maybe you tell that to someone else and that really works for them as well. And I feel like how you're talking about the in-person thing, I put up a social media post a couple of days ago about like, hey, who would be keen for like an in-person meetup? And the amount of people that came back to me like, yes, we have to do this. When I started 14 years ago, there used to always be workshops on everywhere. And it would be like one of those ones where you'd go to like 3 or 4 a year and there'd be big ones. And it was just something you did because everyone was trying to up the level of their craft. And it was mainly around business really. But I feel like that died off for like, honestly, like 6 or 7 years. There was kind of nothing. And especially coming back into the expos like you're talking about at the moment, like people are ready to go out and meet people, because the online world is getting so much more overwhelming every single year that people are like, I want to get away from that. I just want to go meet good people and be like, yes, I want to choose you, and kind of tick that box. Otherwise, there's 50 different celebrants, there's 100 different photographers. Like, how am I ever supposed to actually choose who I want to be a part of my day? So, I think you're definitely on the front foot there. And even coming back to teaming up with other vendors, I feel like you go to a wedding expo, every other vendor there has spent money to be there. So it is really nice to be speaking to people that have actually put money into their business, and they're trying to do something. And like you said, it's very easy to be like, oh, that doesn't work, but without really trying it. Oh, that might not work. But you, like you said last year, you did try everything. And that's very similar to me, where I said, like, I did the wedding trails. I did so many styled shoots 2 years ago. And same thing, it might be a bit of content for a day and then it was just kind of gone into the ether. Ads really works for me, but it doesn't work for everyone. Like, in person could really work for you. So it's good to it is good to keep trying those different things and really work out what's working. And this will work really well for you this year, but then in 3 years, all of a sudden it doesn't work because people are over it and they just want to do it from their phone, or they just want ChatGPT to kind of recommend 10 vendors for them. It's just kind of keeps shifting, which is, I kind of find enjoyable. It's like always a game to unlock the next thing.
I think we've shifted. I think from my perception is we're shifting back to human connections. And we're probably not doing this not just in the wedding industry, but in every industry worldwide. I think we've gone through the tech boom and now we've come back into human connections with tech included. And it's probably the balance of the two now. But I think it's this return to humans, connection, people. I think it's also, the lesson of delegation. People get scared to delegate in their businesses because they fear that it's a threat to their own job. Versus it's actually not. The more I can delegate to my staff, the more I'm upskilling them, the more I'm empowering them, but I'm also freeing up my own time to move on to other projects or to grow and to learn. And I think the vendor connection piece, I think people are probably hesitant to do it because they're scared that, if I give you all of my tips and tricks, you're going to be the same as me now. Actually, no, those are the things you have been doing that you're passing on. And actually by you passing those on, it's freeing you up, or people might spark a conversation that allows you to grow your ideas. And I think that idea of delegation or the lessons from delegation can actually be applied to how we work as vendors. And actually, the more I have a conversation with you and ask you questions around what your business is doing, and if you meet me with reciprocal respect and ideas, we're going to spark something in each other and help each other find our biases, our blind spots. And if we can learn from each other, which is essentially what this podcast is. You're sharing business tips. It's not a threat to your business. You're wonderfully successful, but the imparting of knowledge if anything, makes you stronger because you're creating networks, you're creating transparency, you're creating trust, you're creating branding for yourself. All of this actually makes you more successful, not less successful. And it started with sharing of ideas and information. And I think where you were saying about vendors catching up with each other, I think it just takes the courage of one of us in each state to start that process and to start a group that doesn't want for anything other than to be altruistic and to be kind to each other as humans. And if one of us is growing, the other one is not growing. But equally, I think coming back to the idea of, blending that with inclusivity, if somebody's growing and another one is not, we're not being inclusive of that person. We're actually excluding them because they're falling behind. Let's help them catch up. They may not get as far as where we are, but let's catch them up 3 steps so that they can put food on the table for their family, so that they can go on a nice holiday, so that they can not have the stress of knowing whether they can pay the electricity. These sorts of things that are real life problems. A simple coffee, checking in with somebody, hey, how's your business? What is working for you? What is not? And then using that as a conversation starter. That's how we as an industry grow and succeed and move forward. And that's how better couples that are more aligned to our positioning find us, because that reputation starts to get out there, doesn't it?
It does. And I don't know how many times you've done the same thing, is like when you're talking and trying to help another vendor, and then you're like, I'm talking exactly to myself, because you'll start telling them like something like, you should do this, this, this. And you're like, I haven't done that yet, but that is a really good idea. Like the amount of times where you're trying to lift someone up. And I mean, at the start, it was like the whole, community over competition. And I feel like that isn't even needed to be said in the wedding industry anymore. Like it did at the start. It was kind of like everyone was competition. You got to get as many as you can. It's all about you. But for the last almost decade, it has been like, community over competition, to the point where I'm even seeing, like, obviously there's been the elopement thing for so long where there'd be, say, like a celebrant and a florist and a photographer, and they would team up to start a new elopement company. But now I'm seeing a lot of people just team up just to bring a better wedding experience. Like I'm seeing, like if you want to book in, you can have your celebrant, your photo, video team, and your florist and your stylist. You're going to get an amazing team, and we're really comfortable working with each other. And I see lots of people doing that now as well, which I think even that is just, it just shows confidence to all the couples out there that you are thinking about them as well. So,
I've got a nearly 400-page vendor spotlight guide. It's sort of a digital magazine. Now, each vendor sort of gets 6 or 8 pages, and a lot of it is pictures. It's images of their work. But I've written my own personal write-up on that business, what I like about them, what I love about them, why they're exceptional at what they do. I've got it across all categories, from photo, video, caterers, musicians, magicians. I've even got a tattoo artist in there.
How good.
These are just people that I've met in the industry that I really vibe with and I want to keep doing work with. And they're just exceptional at what they do. And it doesn't cost anything for me to give that as a value add to my couples. It took me 6 months of sitting in front of Netflix with InDesign open, graphically designing this magazine. But that's essentially what it is a digital magazine promoting other vendors, going, hey, you may not have thought about a magician, but here's a really exceptional person who is out there in the industry doing this, and also goes to Vegas and he'll do it at your wedding. Like this is, and people, I've had, the tattoo artist is one. She's actually a client of mine. I'm marrying her and her fiance very soon. Another couple of mine said, "Did you know a tattoo artist?" And I was like, "Well, actually." One of my couples is a tattoo artist, and now she's in that guide, and will come on your day and stencil and tattoo and mark that moment if that's what you want to do. And I think that's me showing up as a vendor in a really inclusive industry way by going, these are some awesome people. I love to celebrate them, and they comment on my Facebook posts. They like my Instagram pieces. They engage with me. They check in with me. They ask these business questions. They do all of these things. And that, again, it's about how do we create ways to connect with our couples. I've got my inclusivity guide. I've got my vendor spotlight guide. I've got a few others. And these are just tools and education pieces that I have built out for my clients. Yep. Again, I charge a premium fee. How do I give you a premium service for the fee that I'm charging? And my corporate background is sales, marketing, education. This is the education element coming through with tips and tricks and ideas. I think we forget as vendors that we play in the industry 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
There is, for most couples, one time that you do this, maybe twice if you look at the divorce rate, right?
Yeah.
And by the time they get to number two, they've forgotten the first one, and it's like doing it all over again. They don't know that you need signage. They don't know that you don't need a seating chart just because your mother had it 70 years ago. You can have free seating. Put a color-coded wristband on people for dietaries so catering can find them. We don't actually need seating charts that say, I'm telling you that you need to sit next to that person. Why don't we create some sort of mixer event in the cocktail hour where people, and then they naturally just find their own seat, right? This is an idea, and I think it's about, a lot of my process as a celebrant is, I like to think 10% is on the day, 90% is the lead up to it.
Definitely.
It's connecting with my couples to make sure that they feel comfortable and secure and supported along the way. I open up a WhatsApp group or an Instagram group with my couples, and I literally say to them, you've got unlimited chat in this group. If you don't know which vendor to ask the question to, ask it to me and I'll go, oh, that one should go to your florist.
How good. That's amazing.
Whereas other vendors I hear go, nah, thanks for the booking. I'll contact you 3 months out and we'll start the onboarding process.
Yeah.
It's just not how I roll. Each their own. It's not how I roll. I say to my couples, I don't mind if you send me a text message at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. If I'm still awake, probably not. If I'm still awake, I will answer it. If not, I'll answer it in the morning. But I get what the flip side of that is I get all sorts of questions from, can you help us write our vows? Can we both walk down the aisle? I get all sorts of questions through to holiday photos, pet photos. I get life updates, and it's wonderful because that gives me fodder as a celebrant, and it gives me connection to the couple. So I feel like when I'm up there with them, I can really deliver something that is going to make their heart sing because I know who they are as people. And that's that dialogue that comes along the way. It does not cost me anything except responding to that on my phone in front of Netflix. It doesn't cost me nothing but time. But what it creates is a value proposition for couples. And I think that is really powerful.
I love that. And I feel like your referrals must be so high because people talk about, that whole process of you booking a couple a year out from their wedding. Essentially, you've got that whole year to nurture them, and they've all got friends that are getting married that year or the next year as well. And if they are just like, oh yeah, we send Teddy a message, he writes back, and we're sending him this, of course they're going to recommend you to their other couples as well. And so you're getting this whole length of time where you are almost like you're nurturing them just because you want to be a good person. But the upside of that is just exponential as well from just the amount of leads you're going to get from their friends. And then you're probably going to have this network at a wedding where you've got the couple you're getting married, but then you probably know a bunch of people in the audience as well, it's really cool to be able to do that because for vendors that aren't, and they're, like you said, just contacting you 3 months out, they've missed a whole year of being able to nurture that couple and to make your job easier and better.
I think it's also acts of kindness on the back of that. I went through my financial records for December and I looked at all the invoices that were due and I said to everybody, pay me at the end of January.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is I'm still going to get that money before this ceremony day. If it's not paid, I'm not doing the gig. That's part of my contract, right? Yeah. We'll get to that point later. But for now, you've got all the other costs of Christmas presents, Christmas lunch, Kris Kringle presents, all the things that we have in December. And we're on the top of a cost of living crisis. So I literally just messaged people. I sent them a little personalized video note to each couple. And I just said, hey team, your invoice is due on the 15th of December. I've moved it to the 31st of January. I hope this is a bit of a breather. And the responses, yes, I'm hoping that creates better referrals. As I said, it's still going to get paid. But I think that act of kindness to go, it's nothing off my skin to move that, a month. If that helps you at the busiest month of the year, again, we can find ways as vendors as coming together as a community, but also supporting our couples that really make us their favorite vendor. And to you were talking about referrals. How do you get that? Because you've shown up for them in the most authentic, inclusive, supportive, nurturing sort of way. And, there is a balance here. You have to be able to manage this. When you're doing 250 weddings a year, you have to be able to manage that client, that client contact. Maybe it's automated, maybe it's a VA, there's different ways of going about that. Yeah. I think the principle doesn't change though. The only reason you've got those 250 is because somewhere leading up to that, you're a bloody good vendor in the industry, connecting with people and finding ways to be a point of difference to other vendors.
Definitely, mate. All right, well, we're going to have to wrap up here, but I'm definitely going to have you back on because we've talked off camera about everything you're doing this year, and I'm super excited to see, like you said, you're always trying to improve and adding different things on. So I'd love to kind of, in another 6 months, jump back on and see how that's been going as well. Because, just you can sell, you just spark up. As soon as you're talking about that, obviously you love being a celebrant, but you almost, when I talk to you about business as well, you can see you just light up and you're like, da-da-da-da-da-da, which I love. So it'd be really cool to kind of touch base again in another 6 months and see how the year's gone with all the new kind of strategies that you're bringing out as well.
Yeah, indeed. I think 2026 is going to be an exceptional year for us as individual vendors, but also for the industry is my sort of feeling. I'll leave everyone with one little last takeaway, and that is if anybody's interested in learning more about inclusivity, you can download my guide. So www.marriedbyteddy.com/inclusivity. There's a little contact form. Once you fill in that form, it will automatically email you the guide that I offer to my couples. So if anyone's interested in becoming more inclusive as a vendor, that's a really good starting place because I step that out through language, LGBT community, neurodivergent, sensory needs, pets, elderly, etc. So that's a really good starting point. And then from there, I'd invite anybody listening to reach out to me on socials, email me, come through my website, text me, call me, WhatsApp me, whatever works for you. I will genuinely help anybody that wants to play in this space and genuinely wants to show up better for their couple. So I put that out as an open invite to everyone that if you would like to be inclusive, start with that guide and then by all means reach out and let's start a dialogue.
I love that, mate. And why wouldn't you just go there and choose 3 things that now I'm improving myself and then get that locked off. Okay, now we're going to do 3 more things. It's so easy to do, but the value add is so high. So thank you for being a leader in this space as well. I know couples and families and friends and everything around Australia will be loving that. They probably don't even notice what you're doing, but they just feel more included.
Yeah, fantastic. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And then how can anyone else reach you? You've talked about the website as well. Do you want to mention social media and everything too? Yeah,
so I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Married by a Teddy.
Yep. So
you can find me on socials. My website, marriedbyteddy.com. I've got a contact form on there, so you can get in contact with me that way. You can also email me direct. I'll come back to you with my details, and from there we can localize the conversation either about what you're looking for a wedding, or maybe you have a celebrant already, but you just want some other tips. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm really open to couples, to people in the industry reaching out. So it's not just vendors. If you are a couple, but you've already got a celebrant, but you want to bounce an idea on inclusivity or an idea on how to shake up tradition, by all means reach out and I will 100% support with as many creative ideas as I can come up with.
Daddy, thank you so much for taking the time, mate. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And we'll chat soon. See you, mate. Bye.
Ciao, mate. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco Podcast. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a review or connect with us on social media. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to join us next time for more wedding inspiration, tips, and stories. Until then, happy planning, and we'll see you soon.